Okay, Suzanne Moreau is back with us. We did a podcast about 3 years ago about another kind of child actor film. I want to get to that in a second, but this one is Ginny's Enterprise, Star Trek fan. Uh, it's about same kind of themes. You got a very similar themes in your films, like coming of age, of course, but like kind of like independent women, kind of doing what they want to do, right? Despite their parents, their mentors, or that's sort of the dynamic of your films. The two films I've seen, I guess, so far that you've
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. There's definitely a through line there. I guess both my previous film, Blood Buddies and Ginny's Enterprise, came from like a big writing spate that I was in probably around 2018, 2019. So I just was taking a memoir writing course and I just put a lot of effort into just sort of capturing things based on just very specific memories. Um, and so, yeah, I kind of spun out all these tales, and then I started to look for ways to get them made into films. And voila, it's fast forward a few years, and they're both films, and they've both been in the festival circuit.
So these are the two. Have you made any other films besides the two?
I have, but they're kind of very experimental. One was with two, actually, no, three with Super 8 films. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I've done, like 3.5 minute films. One went to a Toronto film festival, which was really fun. And but the other two are just kind of like for my own.
So in terms of this idea, where did this idea come from you? Were you a Star Trek fan when you were a child?
It's a day in the life of this little girl who it's the day that it dawned on her that she was different because she was a girl. And that, never occurred to her at age 10 that she would be denied kind of the same rights and privileges as her brothers. So this is a lot of angst. I guess she's starting to become aware of the world situation she's in. Um, the Cold War at that time, that dates me. Uh, but there were a lot of sort of international tensions back then. The Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the war in Israel. I mean, these are things that are all happening in the mid 60s. And
Well, there's still a war in Israel. I guess that's the one thing that's the same, right?
oh, things have not changed.
No.
I mean, yeah, I've heard that there's an 80-year cycle, repeat cycle for history, but I think it's closer to 30 or 40 or even less.
Because we're
Yeah.
speeding up, that's why. As like it used to be 80, now we're speeding up as a species, right? So in
Yeah.
a bad way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'd learn, but no. Yeah.
So
So
did
that's
you
where,
watch Star Trek when you were a child? Like I don't know, like you said, you kind of age yourself. So that when it was on TV originally, were you watching the program?
I was 1967. It was on TV, and I think that was the first year it was aired. And then we watched the repeats. Like you get home from school, you watch TV, and there's repeat after repeat rebroadcast of the same one or two seasons. I don't even know how long it was. It wasn't very long. But yeah, it made an indelible impression on me. And the thing about it was, I kind of related to the fact that there was a woman on the bridge, and she was in communications, and um, that was kind of like the first kind of another kind of spark went off in my head. Oh, there's things for women besides just, being a wife and mother.
So yeah, so it lasted 3 years, 66 to 69, 79 episodes. And then it wasn't really a huge hit, right? They kind of canceled the show after 3 years. There
Mhm.
wasn't really, there's a lot of Westerns on during the time, I guess, but not many sci-fi shows. So it was dare I say, ahead of its time. And now it's still, a gift. It's like 60 years later. There's still how many series have they made? Like 10?
Yeah, and movies.
In
Yeah.
movies, right? Like constant movies, and then well, that's what they did with the cast, right? They ended up making a movie series out of this cast, right, from the '60s show. So when you're watching it, like would you, okay, first of all, did you ever imagine that people would they would still be making Star Trek movies like 60 years later?
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
No, it really had legs, didn't it? I mean, yeah, it's just, but of course it was a phenomenon for me. I don't know. I used to just, it was just it was an escape for me. Like I did climb trees and pretend I was Captain Kirk and was calling all the shots from my little cockpit up there
Yeah.
in the trees. And with my friends, we would go out and do that stuff together. And so it was kind of nostalgic, but it was also a kind of, I guess the point of the film I was trying to kind of come across was that, we're kind of, it was sort of a social political comment on the times. And I guess underscoring that some of those things that happened to girls and women back in the 60s had a carryover effect into their later lives. And then there was this huge movement of women's emancipation, Germaine Greer and all these other women that started the feminist movement going. So opportunities were starting to open up for women. And I don't know, it's one of those things, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it Gene Roddenberry's idea of putting a woman in the on the bridge, or
Mhm.
was it all of this other stuff that was still generating? And I'm sure that's what was happening in the background. Um, I haven't done a deep dive
Yeah.
on the history of feminism, but I've kind of been peripherally aware of it. I mean, I did read Edible Woman when I was a young woman,
Mhm.
and a bunch of Margaret Atwood. And those were my kind of heroines.
I read a feminist sports book of the 70s,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they talk about how, like, when you were in gym class, I don't know if you remember that they wouldn't let you, if you were playing basketball, they wouldn't let you do the full court, play basketball the full court because you're a woman.
Oh,
They only
right.
allowed you playing half the court because you couldn't handle running up and down the court.
Uh,
This is
yeah,
like the early 70s. Isn't that like crazy? Like if you think about
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. The attitudes were terrible. And I mean,
Yeah.
even when my kids were little, my kids are in their mid-30s now, but when they were in, Little League baseball. Like they
Yeah.
were, the boys team always got, to big uniforms and sponsorships, and they got to go to big tournaments and stuff. When the girls team did really well, they didn't have a sponsor, they didn't have uniforms. They had to really reach out and try to get some
Yeah.
backing for themselves. And it's like, yeah, it's a real double standard and it's carrying on. And I guess maybe my point was, well, and I think, to be honest, I learned a great deal making this film about getting more specific and about trying to narrow the focus of the film because it tries to cover so many things: the
Well,
social unrest, the wars, the feminism, all of those things,
when I
right?
first watched it, the first thing I wrote down is that I don't say this for a lot of shorts. It's like feature film. Like
Oh,
there's
yeah.
there's a feature film in here, right? Because
Mhm.
you just described it like you're it's I don't think it's too busy. I think that you probably kind of finessed it in editing, but there's a lot of kind of ideas here. In that in the that act the lead role, you can see them having a huge arc, right? And kind of like a lot of conflicts, and we as an audience can just be with their point of view and kind of enjoy the ride like we did in this 19-minute version, right? So
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great point, Matthew. I was just at the time, I think I was getting inspired. Well, the key motivator for me to sort of think of it in bigger terms was funding. And like for some funding opportunities in Canada, you kind of have to have a proposal that will fit the funding.
sure.
So I kind of
Yeah.
morphed the idea more into a series. So I wrote the pilot, which is about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously it is longer and more involved than this little short, but this was intended to be a proof of concept so that I could parlay it on. I
Okay.
guess I just never got the funding, and so I'm like, oh, if I don't get the funding,
Okay,
one
so
day,
proof of concept for a series, and I was thinking a feature
yeah,
film. Yeah, it
yeah,
could definitely be a series as well. So,
yeah. And I have a few ideas as to, what kind of series really resonated with me. That like sex education is one that I thought would be an interesting model because sex education is set in high school, but this is set at university.
yeah.
And so it could parlay into that, like it's like the theme behind it is that our main protagonist, Ginny, has this trauma from her childhood. She's never really gotten over it, even though she's overcome all the hurdles that were put in front of her. She's made a success of herself. But it almost started to turn into a dark comedy. Like she's got a male rival who um, and a very misogynist boss, and all of these different characters started to fill up the pages for me. And the conflicts that came up were just great. Like there's so many of them. So yeah, I could definitely, spin those ideas into a series. Um, if I moved to LA, maybe I could start shopping it around, but I just don't think there's a lot of traction here in Victoria, BC. Uh, Even if I went to Vancouver, I think I'd have a hard time. I have been to Vancouver. I went to CBC and I've talked to them.
Yeah.
And they showed some interest, but I think they want to see more. And so that is the chicken and egg again. Do I get the money first, or do I show them what I can do and then get some money so I can do something bigger so then I can
Yeah. They want to
uh,
see success as well, right? They want to see
yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Netflix.
There's something else that like you didn't like because what my from my experience it seems like I don't want to get in trouble by saying this, but basically like a lot of like what I've read about is that women are were like one there was one side of females that were all for this kind of movement, of course, right? And
Yep,
then there was another side of females who were like against it. And they were
yep,
like it's almost like the yin yang theory where like one powerful force happens and then the opposite powerful force occurs at the same
mhm,
time. And it seems like that's what was happening in like the 60s and 70s were like because a lot of women were like, what's wrong with being a housewife? What's wrong
yeah.
with like the way things are, right?
Yeah, it kind of came out of the 50s
Yeah.
model household, and
Yeah.
a lot of advertising was really focused on that because they wanted to sell washing machines and, grocery, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so women were really portrayed in the 50s as the perfect housewife. They'd always have their hair done, their makeup on. When the man came home, she'd give him his slippers and his pipe. He'd sit down, read the paper. She'd put a big dinner on for him, that kind of model.
Yeah.
And then the 60s came along, and people were like, hey, wait a second, why do we have to depend on a man for our living, or to,
Yeah.
why do we need this marriage contract to survive and not thrive, and also pursue our own talents and our own interests, and make a contribution to the world as a human being. So I think what you're talking about, I think, is the swing of the pendulum. Like you've
Yeah.
got you've got the conservatives, then you've got the liberals, and
Yeah.
then you've got the conservatives and liberals, and it just seems it's a pattern that happens politically, social politically. Yeah,
So what
yeah.
I'm comparing, I guess like you if you're going to compare it, it's like the woke movement kind of like
Hmm.
you talk about swing of the pendulum. It was like this focal movement, and then all of a sudden it was like, no, 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 we're going in this direction now. It was like you went too far kind of thing, right? So
Backlash. Yeah, the backlash.
and there was a
Yeah,
feminist backlash that occurred for a couple for a few years, right? So
yeah.
yeah,
And I think if people understand feminism the way I understand it, it's not
yeah,
about putting women first. It's about giving equal opportunity and equal status to all humans.
yeah.
So whether you're a female, or if you're white or black or whatever you are, you've got the same chances to fulfill your potential and make contributions to the world as anyone else. And of course, that's super idealistic because, there's so many conflicts going on in the world that are depriving people of their human rights. And
Especially men, white men. Like men don't
uh,
want to hear it. Like the order for feminists
yeah,
to work 100%, the men had to embrace it and say, yeah, that makes sense. Let's split
yeah.
the workforce in half, right? So,
And
and they're
that's
like,
that's
I'm not going to do. Most men were like, we're not doing that, right? So,
And that's the sort of attitude of limited supply.
yeah,
And then if you look at how, if you embrace, more people, and more people of all genders into the workplace, you're going to enhance and expand the workplace, and you're going to
yeah,
uh, yeah, it's sort of a different mindset. Like it's not, and there's certainly some a concern, I guess, about like, for example, the immigration in the States. Like, there's a lot of people who think if you give an immigrant a job, you're taking a job away from somebody who's already
yeah,
there, and that's so far from the truth. There's a lot of jobs that people who have been there for a long time don't want to do. And so
Yeah.
a newcomer is much more likely to do it. And it happened historically. Like the Irish came and the Irish were persecuted in New York,
The Italians came, the Jews
yes,
came. It's like the
yes,
same, yeah, analogy. They were all persecuted.
yeah,
They were all, right? Italians,
yeah,
like, yeah, until the 1950s, right? So, like,
yeah. It's
especially after the war. Yeah. And it, you know what I mean? It's like, but if you're economists, like, just to get, I don't want to get off on a tailspin here, but if you're economists, like, the more people it kind of feel it can fuel the economy. If everybody's being productive and creating new jobs and creating new businesses, then that economy gets fueled, right? So,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then things get better, right? Especially if it's smart people, right? So
Well, and they
immigration does work because it's been proven that like the United States is the proof right there, right? So for the last
model.
200 years,
Yeah, it's the model of that
it's
sort of.
because there's an underlying racist overtone. That's what the issue is. They're saying it's one thing, but it's not. It's about race. It's about brown people, right? So
And it all boils down to otherness, right? Like if a person's not like you,
yeah,
you're taught, or you're instinctively afraid.
yeah,
And, maybe this goes back to our genetics way back when we're, pre-language or whatever. But honestly, it's, it for me, it just, maybe it's not coming through in this film in particular, because again, I was really ambitious and trying to, get a lot of messages out. But the kind of messages that if you give in to those primal fears, you're going to curtail not only human development and human advancement, but you're going to curtail yourself as much as the person you're trying to curtail. And it's almost like back in the tribal caveman days, if you needed a resource, you went and got it. There wasn't necessarily trade. Maybe there was. I mean, I really don't know. I wasn't there. But I
yeah.
mean, it's like the theory is, I took anthropology. It's the theory is that you have warring peoples and they're going for territory. They're going for resources. They want to build their community. They want to expand their population. So they're, raiding and grabbing and it's just that's the way humanity and civilization came about. It was through this type of thing. But I'm not justifying it. I'm saying there's a lot of stuff that could happen differently now that we've got education, we've learned from history.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I don't know.
So let's
Seems
talk about let's talk about your film. Let's talk
sure.
about the lead, Ginny. Like that's obviously the key to your film in many regards. I know we'll get to the production design and kind of like shooting in that era, but where did you find the actress who did like was her name May Robb?
Yeah, she was just a delight. What a bright kid. So partly we had to cast the adult Ginny and the child Ginny based on some genetic trait that could be,
Yeah.
mapped.
So who did you cast first?
Um, we cast
Okay.
young Ginny. Yeah, because it was pretty important to get a child actor that could really, really nail the difficult parts. And then, yeah, so we had a choice of a few adults, and we took the one that had the same color of eyes. Um, and her hair color was different, but that's okay because women, when they grow, they can change their hair color to whatever they like.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, she really nailed her audition and really understood what was being asked of her. And on some level, on other levels, like she did feel a little she worried that, this little girl, this imaginary girl, was never going to ever get out of this bad situation.
Yeah.
So, we had to kind of assure her, no, no, she did really well. Look at when she gets older, she's really great and she helps other people who have problems. So, there was kind of that kind of coaching that had to happen.
So, but can you direct a child actor? Like how do you like? Is there a bunch of them in your film? Like how do you work with them? And there's some key scenes as well where like there's two young, like 9, 10-year-old actors or even younger than that. How do you like? How do you accomplish your scene by working with these young actors? I'm just curious about that process.
Well, I think I'm super lucky in that we have quite a resource here to tap from in Victoria. There's a lot of sort of schools of acting, and kids get a lot of acting in their schools. Um, but these particular girls and boys, uh, just through our selection process, we kind of did some compatibility testing with the woman that played the mom, with the 3-year-old. And for me to direct them, it was just really a matter of talking to them, just explaining what was happening. And they were really well prepared. They got all their lines down. And occasionally there would be a moment on set where um, we'd walk into the scene and just say, "Hey, how about this?" or "How about this?" And they would pick it up. And I guess it was just, we tried to keep them relaxed and happy, and their parents were there, and we made it fun for them, even though the subject matter at times was not much fun.
Yeah.
Um, but again, we had my collaborator, Mia Golden, is a child counselor or a youth counselor. So she's got her antenna out all the time, watching for any kinds of signs of distress. And if there's any moments where she needs to step in and chat, she will. And she probably did that once or twice on set with Ginny's Enterprise and just kind of got them back in the groove. Um, but I think
And
they
I'm
really
assuming
like,
you have to be ready. Well, like the crew's got to be ready when you're
yeah,
like, say you got the scene in the I call it the corner store, but then in like the small grocery store,
yeah.
you got that's I'm assuming you don't have much time in that store, so you gotta get it done, I guess, right? And they're like I'm assuming the takes are not that you're not doing 20 takes when you're working with child actors.
That one particular scene was so well choreographed. Like, the nice thing about our location was it was a historical artifacts place. So it had this big barn-like building, and they called it their museum.
Yeah,
And they had all these different rooms set up. And so this particular room was set up to be an 1890s grocery store. And we just had
yeah,
to modernize it a little bit. Same with the kitchen. It was probably a 70s kitchen. We had to swap out some of the appliances.
yeah.
But that's getting into the set deck in production design. Um, but yeah, that particular scene where we had people coming and going, we kind of ran it a few times in rehearsal. And Kelly's always good at picking up footage unbeknownst to people sometimes. So she's and she's also
That's your
planning.
cinematographer, right,
Yeah,
Kelly?
Kelly
Yeah,
Conlon,
yeah.
yeah. So she's planning and she's observing. And um, the nice thing too is that because we had pretty much a whole day in the kitchen for all of those kitchen scenes,
Mhm.
um, we had a whole day there, and while we were filming there, the set deck could take care of the other set, which was the office from the 90s and the corner store. So by the time we were ready to move in, it was just really beautifully done.
That's how
And
it works in the film industry in the mainstream world, right? The art department's always at the next location, right? So then that's what so you were doing it, and then you got the insert of the paper. There's a Daily Colonist, and
yes,
in
yeah,
Israel, Egypt sinks Israeli
yeah,
warship,
that
and
was
you're
a real
like caught
headline.
into the 2020 whatever 2026, and you're like, oh my God, it's like nothing's different, like different countries, I guess, but same battle. It's like
Yeah,
nothing's changed, really, right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
It's just and yeah, I put together that newspaper from some of the articles I wanted to highlight, and I went into the actual news and realized that we could sort of juxtapose the Cuban Missile Crisis as historically 5 years prior to when this action was happening.
yeah,
And then, like you say, you have this recurrence of violence in Egypt, and there's missiles, and we had missiles in Cuba 5 years earlier.
yeah.
It's just recurring, and it can seem just hopeless, to a little kid who really doesn't have any perspective. Um, and this little kid was sensitive, and she was observing all this stuff and taking it in, and it was just kind of weighing on her. So all the more
But
reason
it's the
why.
same lens though. The lens is that like I I grew up in the tail end of the Cold War, but you're taught that we're good and they're evil, right? And that's how it was. That's how it was like taught to people, and it still is, right? No matter what side you're on, that's what they're teaching you. That's what they're teaching people.
Yeah, it makes it easier to kill your enemy if you don't think of them as human. And
Sure.
I think that's part of the logistics behind war. Um, and like my
But
dad,
obviously, that's kind of far from the truth, like,
yeah, oh
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So it
yeah.
was just interesting that you're kind of putting in this context, right? Where like what she's
Yeah.
observing and yeah, and like
It
what's
adds,
happening.
it adds to the stress. And then when, when this thing where her mom gets mad at her for not, you know, buying the right thing at the store, like it's and then she just goes over the top and then she starts to punish her physically. And
Yeah.
so this little girl, she's had a pretty bad day by that point. Just goes into that dissociative state. And I think that's where that was the whole point of, the beginning scene with the young woman coming to see the adult Ginny and saying, and
Yeah.
she's like, oh, I've had some of this happen to me before. And it's just your way of coping. Um, so she got that perspective for herself, and she thought that would help this other young woman to know that she's not alone.
Yeah. And she's just like observing the newspapers, right? Like even with the customer, the shopkeep, she's like looking at what he's uh he's looking at, right? So it's like she's kind of like, yeah, she's taking everything in, and then of course she's gonna make mistakes, right? When
Oh,
she's so much is going on in her head, right? So
oh yeah, yeah, and that's the
yeah,
thing I wanted to play with too. Is
yeah,
like, what is a lie? Is she really doing something wrong, or is she just misinterpreting what she was told, or And I particularly like the way the scene turned out with her coming home and her mother confronting her, and the two actors just did such a great job of that scene. And the other thing that kind of really for me amped it up was how in the editing you have her out in the out with her girlfriend, and she's supposed to go straight there and straight home, but she did all
yeah,
these other things, and she's having fun with her friend, and then she gets home and everything just stops and the music stops,
yeah.
and that kind of sound design and editing by Kelly was just amazing. She did a fantastic job.
And then the character comes in, just speaking of that scene, the black kind of character comes in, and she's like living a different world than she is, right? So
Yeah, yeah. When
yeah,
she's at the store, this is sort of her real life encounter with someone who looks like Lieutenant Uhura,
yeah,
and uh, and it just makes a major impression on her. So she's registered that subconsciously. So then when she gets into this little dissociative state and starts to hallucinate, that's who she sees.
yeah. Yeah,
She
it's
sees.
interesting. So let's talk about the production design. It's fantastic, and you obviously were you shot two kind of mode. You shot the 90s, and I like the computer, the touch of the computer. I think I had that computer the 90s, but the 60s especially. Like where the cars? You got the 60s cars. Where'd you get those picture cars?
Oh yeah, that's another really fun one. My one of my set deck people has a husband who has restored cars. He restores cars. He hadn't ends with
Oh,
the
lucky
with
you. Yeah,
so she put me in touch with this car club, and I went on their Facebook page and I just said, "Hey, anybody want to put their car in a film? Got to be between this year and this year in this style." And I got so many cars. So many people just wanted to have their
wow.
car in this little independent film. They didn't even care that it wasn't, necessarily going to go on TV. They just thought it would be fun. And coincidentally, when we got closer to production, I said, "Okay, I've narrowed it down," and I got in touch with five people. And of those five, I got, I think, three cars. Um, the first guy to show up with his car, he looked at us and we looked at him and they're like, "Don't we know you?" And his wife had said to us, I said, "Would he mind being filmed if he's in the car?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, he's a professional driver." Well, it turns out he's our courier. He drives for UPS,
Oh,
and
gotcha. So
he's been
he's
to our
delivers
house
packages. Yeah.
multiple times, right? And he was the guy out of all of these people that we could have picked from this car club of the
Yeah.
100 or so people. He was the one. So that was kind of a funny little coincidence.
And then the house, you talk about the kitchen and the house, like in the hallway. Did
Yeah.
you Was it somebody's house or did you recreate that that kind of aesthetic?
It's actually an old schoolhouse that's been kind of preserved. And
Because
uh,
they don't have a budget to modernize the school.
no, no, they want it to look old.
Oh, they want it
Like,
to look like that. Okay.
yeah, it's a historical artifact society. So they want everything, they want
Okay.
to keep everything. They're so nostalgic. So like they have all of these old vehicles, and that's what you see in sort of behind the store after they come out and they're eating their food. And you see the old wrecked trucks and stuff deteriorating. Um, a leap of faith in that scene, by the way, because honestly, I didn't see how that matched the front of the store, but it didn't matter because it was a story being retold from memory.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so yeah, so anyway, the buildings were all old. And the kitchen, though, we had to swap out the fridge because the fridge was way too modern. But the
Yeah.
dishwasher was straight out of the 60s. So it stayed. But my husband has a friend who collects fridge doors. And
Of
he was
course. Yeah. Who doesn't collect fridge doors? Yeah.
Yes, he plays hockey with them. He was telling them about, oh,
Yeah.
Suzanne wants me to build her a kitchen from the 50s. How am I going to do this? He goes, well, I got
Yeah.
some fridge doors. Will that be helpful? So, yeah.
That's hilarious.
So my husband built the frame and we put the door on, and then I shot a little video of him inside. I opened the door and showed it to Kelly, and he's inside, and she was just thrilled because then she could get her shot from inside the fridge. And so that was really a fun moment.
So the mom, for some reason, like that's kind of my memory is in my childhood that all the moms had these curls in their
Curly.
hair,
Yep.
as the mom in your film did. I don't know why. Like maybe they every curly hair was a thing in the 70s, I guess, or the 60s, 70s. But
Yeah, right back to the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. It was just the
I
way.
don't see anybody doing that now. That's basically what I'm trying to. But I saw it all through my childhood. Every mom on the street had curls in their hair.
Yeah, because they couldn't. I guess they didn't have the curling irons back then. And if you did
Yeah.
want to straighten your hair, you used an actual iron that you would use on clothes. But yeah, that was just an added touch because as I was, going through all of the kind of older pictures of kitchens and stuff, there were a lot of pictures with these 50s housewives in them, and some of them had their hair in curlers and smoking cigarettes
Yeah.
and cooking and all of that stuff. So I just thought, yeah, I gotta get the curlers. And my costumer put the mom's hair up in the curlers. She did
So
a
yeah,
great job.
from a directorial standpoint, you're always kind of you said it's her kind of memory. You're always kind of shooting from her point of view, right? Like even the son, sometimes the mom was like she's on sitting down and the mom's you only see the mom's body, you don't see the mom's head, I guess, right? Because it's like it's what she kind of is observing, right? So
Yeah, yeah. In some scenes, you're seeing sort of dirty over the shoulder from the
yeah,
mom's side, and you just see her face looking up at her mom. And then there's occasions where, and I asked Kelly to do this, and she got down low and pointed the camera up
yeah,
at mom actress, and then she put the camera above, and we did the overhead shot of her on the floor. And all of these things are like, I guess I asked for some of them, but Kelly brings her own perspective and her own cinematography skills to the set.
yeah,
I just get such a thrill working with her when I can provide something for her that she really loves, like the fridge or the cars. She loved the cars, and she got inside one of the cars and she did some shots from inside, but they didn't end up in the final cut. Um, but yeah, it's always great to get an excited and enthusiastic
yeah.
collaborator on a film like this.
So there's not much sympathy for the mom, let's put it that way, right?
Yeah, that's true. And yet I do, like, for my own mom, I do have sympathy for her. Like, I
Yeah,
think the moms back then were under a lot of pressure. Like, it's all been idealized, right? Like in advertising. But actually
sure.
that's a heck of a lot to deliver every day. Looking good, getting the meals on the table, kids dressed and all buffed up and shiny, and like that was a lot to expect of anybody and no pay. And you're completely, beholden to your husband for any kind of money to spend on yourself, really tightly controlled budgets and things. So that's why she was so, mad about the money, right? Like in
Yeah.
this particular case, she had to really watch her nickels and dimes. Um, but yeah, I probably the way, maybe there could have been a little bit more, a few more takes, but we didn't have that actress for very long, and so we basically did as much as we could with the time we
Gotcha.
had,
Yeah.
and and basically, I think we got enough. We got just enough,
Well,
but yeah, go
no, I
ahead.
was gonna say if it's made into a show, I'm assuming that the mom character can get be developed a little bit more, like
Yeah,
because you're showing it from the girl's point of view, right? Like so she's
yeah,
seeing her mom. We're seeing the mom in a kind of negative light for
yeah.
obvious reasons, right? But I'm sure there's like you're right. There's like subtext involved. There's a reason why she is who she is, and the world that she lives in, and who her husband is, et cetera, right? So.
You can only do so much in 20
Yeah,
minutes.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And again, here I was trying to cram so many things in there. But it's almost, yeah, like you say, it's kind of the seed to something bigger. And hopefully one day we'll be able to realize that dream. Yeah,
Yeah,
together.
no, you're onto something with this. So it's like so you mentioned you shot this in did you shot it in Victoria? That's where you are?
Yeah, Victoria, BC and Vancouver Island. Yeah, it's a really nice community here. There's a lot of very supportive filmmakers that help each other out. So that keeps the costs down a bit. And Uh, yeah, it's an ideal place to make films, and I've helped other people in their films as well. Doing things like I did set design for Arnold Limb for one of his films. He's a local filmmaker that's doing some really interesting things, um, and other people around town. So.
So, so this is like something that you said you started like writing and relatively new and you're I'm assuming you're gonna make another film?
Yeah, I do have several scripts. I do have some that are left over from the beginning. Like back when I first started, I got really
Yeah,
into it because of COVID, right? I had not much else to do, so
yeah.
dove right in. But since then, I've been doing writing intensives. So like every few months or so, I'll do a writing intensive and I'll come up with another screenplay. But I haven't really got anything that's kind of camera ready right at the moment. One that I did have camera ready, and it's still camera ready, is Baggage, and it's about an older woman that has a moment of recognition of truth, I guess, if you'd like to put
Hmm.
it that way, when she's in her 80s. So it can happen to anyone at any time in their
So
life.
you got this theme about trauma, right? Like the overcoming trauma, kind of
Yeah.
overcoming your experiences, right? It's
Yeah.
almost this seems to be your arc, right? You started writing, like you kind of age yourself. So basically, we can do the math on how old you are, and like so you like you I'm assuming this is kind of a personal experience on your part.
I think generically, but not specifically in this case, because yeah, it's more
Well, of course, I understand, yeah, but it's still overcoming the issues of your past and kind of
yeah.
like persevering and like because you are because like even in your I just was checking your director's kind of and you kind of even say that in your director statement where like you're asking the question, can we overcome trauma, right? So
Yeah. And and I try to have make it seem like, yes, you can. And so most of the films have a positive note. Yeah, there was
yeah,
trauma, sure, but now you can get over it. And it makes you a stronger, a better person. It's
yeah.
too bad you have to go through that. But the redeeming quality is that even if you've experienced these things, you can overcome it and you can actually be better for it. And you can actually have some insight that might help other people as well.
Yeah, it's like and I always kind of use the broken bone analogy, right? Where if you
Hmm.
break your arm, it can heal and you can maybe your arm's a little bit stronger because of it. But there's certain body parts that like you get your hand chopped off. It's not go the hand's not growing back, right? So, and the same thing with individuals, right? Like something happens to them and like they can't overcome that because it's too traumatic for them.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I try to be sort of more on the positive, hopeful side of things.
Of course, yeah.
You have to have drama as well. Like a lot of I when the first time we showed Ginny's Enterprise, someone brought a friend who'd not been on set. And every time there was a conflict between the mom and the daughter, I heard her gasping behind me. And I'm like, okay, she wasn't really obviously prepared for that kind of thing to happen, but that it was basically the drama, the dramatic conflict that I felt needed to be sufficient to get to hit people, right? Not in a bad way, but in a way to sort of make an impression. Um, Not to say that it's exaggerated. Uh, it's just it's sort of there's that extra level of emphasis and contrast. So yeah, you kind of like you said earlier, we have to kind of pare away some of the details, and
Yeah.
you can't present all the details or fully rounded character necessarily in a 20-minute film. But there is something there in the subtext.
Yeah, 100%. And she's gonna get your character is gonna get over that and kind of using her imagination, right? Ginny's Enterprise, but then also like the progressive of life and kind of understanding. I always believe that for myself personally is that if you give someone context, if you give someone like you put your like yourself in their shoes, I guess, and like we're all perfect, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes people are kind of terrible, but you really can't give them a pass. But well, it's like you said with the mom character, right? Like there's a reason why she is kind of a meanie, like as she is in the film, right? So,
She's having a bad day, and we all have bad days,
or
right?
sometimes people have bad lives,
Yeah, I wouldn't
right?
say that. Wouldn't
Yeah,
say that with this woman, but
yeah,
she did have some pressures on her that had an
yeah.
impact
Of
on
course,
her.
right? And then you can intellectualize it, and you can figure out like I understand the emotional kind of overcoming emotional trauma, but you can also intellectualize the situation of your past and go, okay, I get it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, you can,
Yeah.
and forgiveness is huge. Like, I am sure there's tons of people who just
Yeah.
could never get there with their parents, and I'm really fortunate that I could.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
great.
yeah.
That's amazing. And like forgiveness is an interesting kind of because yeah, you have to forgive, but we're kind of living in an era where like that's a dirty word almost, right? And it shouldn't be, right? Because we should forgive. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
the old cliche, you can forgive, but you can't forget, right? But you should when forgiveness is moving on, kind of like understand like moving on and going to the next chapter with that individual or individuals, I guess, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
An interesting I watched the Golden Globes, and one of the shows that came up really high was The Pit, and it's a medical procedural.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's watch it. Let's just see what it's about, because we're kind of up to here with medical procedurals. But I watched it, and there was this really great scene where two siblings had to say goodbye to their dad
Yeah,
because
the
he was
second episode of the first season. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you've
Yeah.
seen it, and it's just so riveting. I mean, and the key is, when you know someone and you have time with the person to be able to do this, you can say those four things. I love you, I forgive you, will you forgive me? And I think one other thing, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those
Oh
that's
yeah, 100%. Yeah. Now I remember. Yeah. Yeah,
so
exactly.
great.
Yeah.
Yes, great. Really.
Yeah. And like, yeah, that it is. But it's like, yeah, that's and well, most of us don't get that Hollywood moment though, right?
So
Right.
that's right. That's
But
right.
it's but then you basically, yeah, that's 100% true. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. The Pit, yeah, it's a good show. It's kind of reinventing the procedural. Because they're using the 24 kind of concept where like it's
Yes.
set in one day, right? So Yeah.
Yes, yes, I said that to my husband as well. It reminded me of 24.
Yeah.
Um, but there again, like it's made an impact on me. I hope it makes impact on people. Like the thing is that they really drill down into these family dynamics, and in like an episode of what, 45 minutes? Like they
Yeah.
can so much, but they do transfer over from episode to episode. Um, but that's probably the model of what I would look at if I were going to do a series for Ginny's Enterprise. It'd be like there'll be some continuity between cases, and the cases being, these
Yeah.
students that have problems. So
100%. Yeah. All right. Well, congratulations on the success of the film, and it's amazing what you've accomplished with those two films, like, and the
yeah,
authenticity of like that and like the female relationships and the friendships, like the first one was about, like it's really resonates. Like I was thinking back on your first film where like, yeah, the dynamics of the female kind of like girls kind of like, and there's so much going on when they're young and like all that drama. It's like it just doesn't change. It's the same thing generation after generation, right? So
yeah. And it's just nice to be able to see that on
yeah,
screen. A
it
lot of
is. It's beautiful to see others because everybody goes through it, right? So yeah,
Yes, you're not alone. That's really the message too,
yeah,
is that you're not alone. If you're having these problems,
yeah,
here's a story for you. It's very meta, like that's
yeah.
what the characters are doing in the film. That's what I'm kind of doing as a filmmaker.
All right. On that note, let's talk again when you make your next film.
Okay. Thanks so
Thank you
much,
so much.
Matthew.